Hi everyone, and welcome to the Tesla Economist. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Okay, so we're going to work out how much robotaxis are actually worth. And here we're going to be working under the assumption that robotaxis were successful. They created the full self-driving and created the whole system and network that facilitated robotaxis, and it became a service. Governments were okay, and eventually got around the regulations. And at this stage, maybe we have perhaps almost 100 million cars on the road, Tesla cars, and all of them could serve as a robotaxi if they wanted to. So we're not going to be working on any assumptions that if this happens. So this is like if it has happened, if robotaxis are here, they're a thing, and they've been going for a little while. We're working on that and then working out how much the robotaxi business would be worth. So let's say there were 100 million cars, like we said. Okay, and they're all potentially robotaxis. So, but obviously they're not all going to be robotaxis, and obviously not all full time. So let's just say that robotaxis do pay really well, and that people are willing to do it because the returns are so good. So let's say that each robotaxi is worth robotaxi revenue is worth 30,000 a year. And let's say that half of that goes to Tesla and half goes to the owner of the car. So revenue share is 50%. Okay, and let's say perhaps 30% of all Tesla cars are on the road that create an average of $30,000 a year income. So let's say fleet on the road, say 30%. So then that would mean the actual income would be 100,000 cars, 100 million cars, making 30,000 a year, but only 50% goes to Tesla, and only 30% of those are on the road, are in the robotaxi network, I mean. So that gives us $450 billion gross profit every year. Now, remember, we're working under the assumption that it has been a success. So when Tesla see these kind of numbers, it's quite obvious what they're going to do is just create more and more and more robotaxis as quickly as possible. Even though with this kind of income, they're still going to need. They're still not going to be able to afford to build the fleet themselves. They will need people to buy the robotaxis to subsidize it for them. So they will be building it as fast as they can, basically, and everyone is going to be funding them by buying a Tesla as part of the robotaxi. All the consumers will be funding it. So they can just build as many factories specifically for robotaxis. It doesn't matter if people are buying cars or not. People are still getting from A to B, and if suddenly this is the cheapest form, not just cheap, convenient, safe, luxurious, a big screen to watch while you're traveling, it's just going to be obvious that even if they don't have 100 million in 5 years' time or 10 years' time, they're still just going to pump it out as quickly as they can. Eventually, they will reach 100 million. Eventually, they reach 200 million 300 million, even a billion cars, maybe that's what they need, something in that order on the road. So it will happen. So the only threat, really, mainly I can think of, other than someone inventing teleportation, is simply other competitors coming into the market. So Tesla is really far ahead in all their FSD, but perhaps we can get into that in another video. Anyway, if at some stage they're going to be having 100 million cars and having some similar statistics to what we're dealing with here, and they will be around $500 billion of gross profit, and it's pretty much going to be all net profit too. Anyway, if this is the case and there's still so much more growth left, again, let's just use a P ratio of 30. I mean, it probably should be closer to 50, but let's use 30 and value what robotaxis are potentially worth. So there we have $13.5 trillion. That's kind of what robotaxis is worth when they have about 100 million cars on the road. Maybe in that ballpark anyway. And maybe they'll have 200 million cars in 10 years' time or 12 years' time, or maybe even more. So basically, this is an enormous amount of money. And like I said, it's an if they can pull this off. This will never really happen, really, unless the competition comes in, which we can't really see. I mean, when there's this much money involved, Tesla will be able to get around all the regulation eventually, and it's beneficial for cities and nations and governments to have lower costs of transport. It's good for commerce. All right, well, I'd like to see what your thoughts are on all this, so write a comment about it, and I look forward to reading those. Hit the thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.